Welcome back to another board game tier list, everybody. Today we are doing the War of the Ring factions tier list for both the Shadow and the Free Peoples. Um, we've talked about the cards, we've talked about the combat cards or the call to battle cards. And now it's time to rate the factions overall. So there are 6 factions, 3 for each. The Shadow and the Free player, or the Free Peoples. So let's get to it. And I'm honestly not exactly sure where I'm going to put all these, but let's see what happens. So, okay, first let's do the Dunlendings, which is what I always call them. So the huge perk of the Dunlendings is that normally, so I guess how I personally play War of the Ring when I'm using all the expansions is that turn 1, my goal with the Shadow player is to muster as much as possible. So I want to get Isengard to war, and then I want to get a ton of dice. So I want to get Saruman. I want to get the Dunlendings into play so that I get the faction die next turn. And then I might want to recruit one of the I can't remember what you call them, but it's one of the leaders from the Kings of Middle Earth. Not corrupting a sovereign would be bringing Ugluk into play, or one of those people. So I'd want to do that because that gets me another die as well, even though it doesn't net you any. It gives you more options. And then maybe even getting the Balrog into play. There's a lot of things you want to do turn 1, and or at least that I want to do turn 1, because anything that I do early means that later on in the game, instead of rolling 7 dice, I'm rolling 10 dice, or even more than that maybe. So because of that, because you can get the Dunlendings into play turn 1 very easily, I think that they are S tier. Some of the things that they do are really, really helpful, and regardless, they will help your attempts to take over Helm's Deep and the rest of Rohan. So they are good, they are helpful, and they actually can be used to enter Moria and then go with the Balrog to attack somewhere else, theoretically. There's different things you can do, which I'm excited to try out at some point or whatever. But I think that the Dunlendings are S tier. Okay. Next one, the Corsairs of Umbar. So you have to get the Easterlings at war. Let's see, what's their starting? Do they start with 3? Yeah, 3 in Umbar. Beautiful. So the Corsairs of Umbar, I would say that they can be helpful. I generally, okay, as the Shadow player, everything that I do, I want to help lead me to victory. So if essentially what I'm trying to say is I think that the Corsairs of Umbar are just a little bit inefficient. I think that you can use a bunch of army move actions to just naturally move the armies from the Southern area, Umbar, and all of those other places. Harad, I guess, is probably down there. And attack. I think you can do that somewhat efficiently. So to spend dice to get these guys into play, and then once you have these guys into play, to recruit some more of them so that you can move quicker. Essentially, it's like I'm going to spend a bunch of dice so that I don't have to spend a bunch of dice. Or so that I can surprise my opponent, maybe. But it's not much of a surprise. Your opponent kind of knows this is happening, because you just can't do it quick enough. So because of that, I do think they're helpful, but I think they're generally too slow. I'm going to put them in B tier. And then the Spiders. These guys are probably the hardest one to get into play, in my opinion, because you probably can't get them into play the first few rounds unless the Fellowship gets revealed, which, in my opinion, is not super likely. At least that hasn't been my experience. They're really good at hunting for the ring, but hunting for the ring just gives you better chances at re-rolling, theoretically. Or you could do some tiny damage to the Fellowship, but it doesn't seem to matter enough. There are some cards that they have that are helpful, but overall, I think I'm going to put them in C. They can be helpful, but they're just not nearly as good. So, all right, that's the Shadow. The Free People. The Ents. This is the group for the Free People that's very easy. Well, it's not super easy, but it's the easiest to get into play. You could probably get them into play turn 1 if you try really hard, or turn 2 if you just maybe let things develop naturally. Saruman needs to be in play. You need to have a companion or the Fellowship, but that's probably never going to happen. And Fangorn, and then you can bring them into play. And once the Ents get going, they are so good. And because of that, I think I'm going to put... So, like, the Ents are normally who I will recruit. So I think they're going to go in S tier. All right. The Dead Men. Hard to get into play. But it's possible. And once you do, they're really good. So whereas, like, the Corsairs of Umbar do something, but they're not awesome, I think that the Dead Men are actually... do a ton, but they take a little bit to get into play, and because of that, I think they're going to go in A, because if you do commit the time to getting them, they're really, really helpful. And then the Eagles. So the great thing about this is that you get to determine when this happens, when you can get them into play, because you can either declare somewhere that's not Rivendell, or if you can get Gandalf the White, which is also obviously a great thing to do. And then the Eagles have such a huge spread. There's so many places that they can defend. So because of that, I guess their cards don't always do that much. But I am a big fan, and I think I'm a big enough fan to put them in A. So I think that the Shadow player should always go for this. The Free People player should probably always go for this, unless they are really... But even if they do go for the Dead Men, they should probably do both the Ents and the Dead Men, at least in my opinion. But if they don't want to go for the Dead Men, they can go for the Ents and the Eagles, theoretically. Or if they're literally just trying to go as fast as possible, then maybe you just want to go the Eagles instead of either of those two. These can be a little bit too slow, which is the problem, and these just don't seem to do enough, in my opinion. So, yeah, I guess that's the tier list. Thanks for watching, guys. The factions are really sweet. So, there we go.